Good afternoon, everybody. On this Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025, I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride home. And on today's episode, we'll discuss the Diddy trial and the guy who claims Diddy paid him 50 grand to remove that infamous security footage. We'll have that. Plus, Kylie Jenner explains what she does to augment her look. And with augmentation comes the conversation of Cheryl Burke. I'll respond to some comments I got from people telling me, hey, Dave, let people do what they want with their body as they age, blah, blah, blah. We'll get into that. Plus, Blake Lively, big story. This will be our featured story today. Blake Lively tries to get rid of her emotional distress claims. We have the response from the judge and other lawyers, what they have to say about removing claims with prejudice, without, what all these legal terms mean, and why this is a huge win for Justin Baldoni. Then we'll talk Bachelor Moms and the idea of being shamed for sharing your kids, and more on the ice mask debate. Now, I know ice mask sounds like something you buy at Bed Bath & Beyond, but we're talking about the ice agents that are disappearing people and wearing masks while they do it. Those stories and more, it all starts right now on The Rush. Well, let's actually start with a Bachelor story. This is Kendall Long. She's one of the more known Bachelor contestants, a science enthusiast. She's got a twin, and she was featured on Fear Factor back in the day. Now, she responds to comments about her exploiting her children. Someone said, I had to unfollow after all these years. I still am obsessed with you, but I just can't stand baby content. It seems so exploitative. You're more than just a mom, too. I also despise mom talk, so maybe that's also part of my distaste, LMAO. She responded, I don't want people following me who feel the need to tell me they don't want to see me excited about becoming a mother. So, adios. And by the way, big credit to Kendall Long here for responding to people. No need to announce your departure, okay? Here's what she had to say. The beautiful thing about life is that we all evolve as we embody different phases. I share many different subjects, but motherhood is so new and exciting for me, so I'm sharing a lot of that experience now. If you don't want to follow, then don't. But you don't need to go out of your way to tell me that you can't stand baby content and to express that you think I'm exploiting my daughter is weird and displays your desire to take ownership of what I share. Not welcome on my page, so bye-bye. Yeah, the entitlement that exists is so rich, right? I get this all the time. I don't even really keep up with my vlog channel because it's so much work, but we post about our family, and I'd rather post about my family, share the love that I have, share it so that my friends and family can see, and risk that there are weirdos online. This is just a personal choice people can make. Some decide to never share any photos of their kid, whatever. Their kid's not consenting to it. It's like, shut up. Let people live their lives. There's so much great educational work being done online by parents and people in that community, and let them share it. You know what I mean? So I'm very happy. I love when I see people like Kendall clap back at those. You know, I had someone recently that said they had to unfollow me because I got a story wrong. Are you kidding me? Imagine if you unfollowed every journalist or content creator that gets a story wrong. And by the way, it was a story that I shared that was covered by NBC News, whose main source was the United Nations. I say all this to say the idea and the gumption that people have out there about perfection. We're not all perfect. We're not going to be. And if Kendall wants to share something exciting to her, so be it. If you don't like it, take a hike. Well, Diddy is in the news again, of course. He's on day 15. The security supervisor details alleged payment for Cassie Hotel video, day 15 of his trial. Now, this is big. So it's his trials for federal racketeering and sex trafficking. And again, whether that meets the standard, we'll find out. And today they had on the stand Eddie Garcia. He's the security supervisor at the Intercontinental in Century City, Los Angeles, the site of the infamous Cassie beating video. I mean, it's a horrible video. And this video came out just recently, right? A couple months ago. So they talked about this specific incident. And Diddy had his, his chief of staff for Combs Enterprises ended up calling to try to get this footage removed. They gave it to him on a hard drive. They were worried that this footage was still on the cloud, and clearly it was. But what's crazy to me is that Diddy's chief chief of staff is a woman and was working with Diddy to get rid of this horrific video. But the other crazy part is that Cassie also called up to say, I want this video removed. I've got a movie coming out. I don't need this. And we can understand for people's personal choices, obviously this would have opened a giant can of worms, and it clearly did. And maybe it took a while for Cassie to realize the gravity here. But this is an awful, awful assault. And, better late than never, I guess. But you're seeing here how $50,000 paid to the security people by the chief of staff can lead to things like this just disappearing. And again, Diddy says he was blacked out and he doesn't remember. Listen, I've had my fair share of drinks in my day, but there ain't no security footage of me touching somebody. This is absolutely ridiculous. All right, well, Kylie Jenner in the news. She was asked about her rack, what she did to augment her body. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm all for people doing what they want with their body. And I'm also all for having the conversation about what people are doing with their body. If you're going to do stuff, you might as well let the world know what you've done, right? Why not? Here, have a listen.
The TikTok for Kylie Jenner, okay? If you're not Kylie Jenner and you don't care about boob jobs, plastic surgery, just keep scrolling. Girl, please, can you just tell us? I promise you, my followers, lovely, safe space on here. Please, can you just tell me /us/ anyone that's interested what it is that you asked for when you had your boobs done? To me, you have got what I am looking for to have done in terms of a boob job. It's the most perfect natural looking boob job ever. They're still big, but whatever way you've had the implants, if they are implants, or if you had fat transfer.
All right, so she says, give me the recipe. That's right. I love the dish. What do you do to make it? And then Kylie actually responded. Here's what she had to say. 444 cc, moderate profile, half under the muscle, silicone, Garth Fisher. Hope this helps. All right. I mean, look, what does that mean? I have no idea. But it's if you look at my Starbucks order, it's wow, this is a venti cold brew 1/4-inch foam. Sometimes if I'm going crazy, I'll put a couple pumps of horchata in there because you got to live your life. But save that for a Friday, right? So she explains her chest order as if it was a Starbucks drink. And good for her. Listen, good for her. But I do want to say we covered this a couple days ago, or yesterday, Dancing with the Stars Cheryl Burke denying plastic surgery and how ridiculous of a story this was, right? So we covered this on the Rush Hour, as you saw, and posted it to our Instagram where people left comments. It's clear as day she had her eyes done. And people said, this is, of course she got work done. It's pretty much confirmed. And by the way, the Rush Hour with Dave Neal on Instagram, almost at 10,000 followers. So if you guys want to help a boy out here, we're just over 1,000 away. So we're getting there. But what's so interesting about this conversation is that I got some flack for it. Flack happens. Here's a comment that I got on my Facebook page. We have a Facebook group. It's free. It's called Dave Neal's Community. Dave, I love you. By the way, great way to start. Telling me you love me. But I have to call you out for your Cheryl Burke take. It's kind of a mashup of Caitlin Bristow and Pamela Anderson here. When you first had a crush on Cheryl Burke, she was young with a rounder, fuller, cute little baby face. As we age, we lose that. By the way, I'm 40. I understand. I know a thing or two about collagen. Also, like Pam Anderson, when makeup is applied a certain way, you can basically create an optical illusion on your face. If you go to Cheryl's Instagram and watch her videos, you can still see Cheryl there. Leave women alone. Allow us to age. And shut up about our bodies, our faces, our hair, whatever it is. And then, then farther in the comments, it was, some sort of paraphrasing about what I said. And look, again, I think Cheryl Burke's beautiful. I just think her face looks completely different. And we're a commentary channel, and this was going super viral before we got to it. This was already a water cooler story. Whether I comment on it or not is really irrelevant. I just think she's lying to people, and that's my opinion.
Let's get unready together. So let's just address the elephant in the comment section. I'm not on Ozempic. I'm not sick. I didn't get a face transplant, and no, I didn't get a brow lift. The level of projection that is happening and that I'm witnessing is wild. The way some of you guys talk about me, it's like you think I'm a headline or a filter. not a person.
And look, I get it. I understand. Her early photos when she's on Dancing with the Stars, she's done up. She's clearly, yes, weight changes. I get all of that. Listen, I don't care. But my point is actually made here by anyone who's giving me flack in that if we want to change, like there's this idea, well, the only reason women feel this pressure when they're aging is because the beauty standards that society sets. And I'm here to say, let's change the conversation about it. Let's just say, how about we all, age gracefully? And if you want to get work done, great. And if you don't, that's great too. You know what I mean? We shouldn't live in a world where Pamela Anderson is considered so brave because she doesn't wear makeup to a Met Gala. But we do, and I'm okay having that conversation. So either way, she continued to share sort of like what she used to look like versus what she looks like now. The comment section speaks for itself. The continued gaslighting is something else. Do you think people are blind? Faces don't just grow longer. Again, all of this. And now listen, the internet is mean. Absolutely. And if Cheryl Burke decides to address it, then they're going to keep coming back and talking about it more. That's just the way it works. Now, but as we saw with Kris Jenner, whose face looks like it's 20 years old, but Kris Jenner's in her 70s. It's like, do what you want, but just understand the risks that come with that. The long-term risks of Juvederm, people truly don't know about Botox. People truly don't know about fillers. There's been some studies that say they actually don't dissolve. Oh my gosh, maybe in some bodies they do dissolve, maybe in some they don't, kind of like with breast implants. Sometimes your body rejects them and you get an illness. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes literally it creates like a coral reef around the implant because it's your body trying to calcify and fight it because it thinks it's a foreign object. It is a foreign object. So you got to be able to have these conversations.
Old Cheryl or now Cheryl? Same face, different makeup. Let's have some fun, shall we?
No. Anyway, we love Cheryl. I still think she's beautiful. Coming up next, we're going to discuss Blake Lively because there is a lot to talk about. A lot is happening. The judge has responded. We'll have this entire story coming next. Let's be real. No one likes calling their insurance provider to see if their medication is covered, especially not for GLP-1s like Ozempic or Wegovy. Ro's Insurance Checker lets you know if you're covered for GLP-1s for free. If you're eligible and want to see if you're covered, all you have to do is submit your insurance card and Ro will take care of the rest. No paperwork, no negotiating, no waiting on hold. Ro members have support throughout the process. You'll have access to your provider on demand for any questions. So join the over 350,000 people who've trusted Ro to check their coverage for free. Go to ro.co/rushhour for your free insurance check. That's ro.co/rushhour to see if your insurance covers GLP-1s for free. Go to ro.co/safety for black box warning and full safety information about GLP-1 medications. And now back to the show. Bombshell update with Blake Lively as she abandons claims against Justin Baldoni for infliction of emotional distress. Now, this is a tough charge to even prove. As you know, we've covered this in the Bachelor Clayton versus Laura Owens scandal, as Laura Owens has had accused her former partner of emotional distress. I actually believe I still may be sued by Laura Owens over claims of emotional distress. Now, I don't think she's going to prove it because it's, if you don't know someone who lied about faking, multiple things from cancer to pregnancies to, abortions and miscarriage, the whole nine yards. She, if it exists, she probably lied about it, right? But she's lost a whole bunch of weight, and in the past, Laura Owens tried to file a claim against Craig Gillespie for emotional distress, and the judge said, you haven't proven that what he did caused this. Like, there wasn't a paper trail. So that's why I believe now she's trying to create a paper trail so she can cause that. But with Blake Lively, in order to create a paper trail where she claims infliction of emotional distress, she would have to provide all of the evidence, which would include mental health records and things like that. It would be pretty ugly. Well, the judge has ruled on her sort of dropping of this, but very interesting. Blake Lively attempting to withdraw her claims against Baldoni of intentional infliction of emotional distress and negligent infliction of emotional distress. The move comes after Baldoni's legal team sought discovery that included her medical records in the effort to defend the It Ends With Us director against her claim that she suffered severe emotional distress, pain, humiliation, embarrassment, belittlement, frustration, and mental anguish. Listen, we feel that every day when we read the comments about us on Reddit, but of course, someone has the right to defend themselves if they are being subjected to all of those things. If that was the case, Lively's attempt to withdraw the 2 claims surfaced in a filing Monday by Baldoni's attorneys, who are seeking to compel the actress to sign a HIPAA release for access to therapy notes and other relevant information. Instead of complying with the medical RFPs, Miss Lively's counsel advised us in writing that Miss Lively is withdrawing her claims. However, Miss Lively has refused the Wayfair party's reasonable request that the withdrawal of such claims be with prejudice. She's only willing to withdraw her claims without prejudice. In other words, Miss Lively wants to simultaneously refuse to disclose the information and documents needed to disprove that she suffered any emotional distress and or that the Wayfair parties were the cause, and B, maintain the right to refile her claims at an unknown time. So this is the same thing that the Department of Justice did. Donald Trump's Department of Justice tried to do this with Eric Adams, the mayor of New York. They tried to say that they were not going to charge him with the crimes. Again, his crimes were like receiving, free flights on Turkish Airlines, basically bribery and things like that. But they said they weren't going to charge him. But what they were trying to do was make it so that it was with prejudice. Or without prejudice, which means they would be able to hang that over his head and make it so that he can kind of bend to their whim, so that if he didn't comply with them, they would end up charging him in the future. It's a way of saying, I'm not going to tell on you, but I will if you don't do what I say, right? So it can be used as leverage. And we saw that happen with the Department of Justice. The judge said, no, you can't do that. We're seeing that now where the judge is actually making a same judgment. So here's what not actually Golden had to say, a lawyer, about the idea of withdrawing it without prejudice.
Have seen, which is true. And so they said, okay, well, you know what? I guess she really doesn't want to give these records over. So they said, we will drop 2 of our claims. We will drop the intentional infliction of emotional distress and negligent infliction of emotional distress, which are kind of 2 flavors of the same thing. Both of those claims are about the smear campaign. They are sort of add-on claims. Remember, she's got 13 claims in her complaint. And she claims the sexual harassment, the retaliation, and some breach of contract. The intentional infliction and the negligent infliction, which is just like reckless disregard, even if you didn't have intent. About the smear campaign to say, this so upset me and so hurt me, it's outrageous behavior, it's beyond the bounds of what society expects, and I was severely emotionally damaged. So they said, okay, we will withdraw those claims because we recognize that we can't prove those claims if we don't give you that discovery. Okay, fine. So everyone's in agreement. Wayfair then puts together a stipulation to say, you're withdrawing these claims, which is pretty standard also. Like, the parties hereby stipulate that she's going to withdraw claims, whatever they are, 9 and 10, 11 and 12. I can't remember. Her lawyer then responds with some red line changes. And one of the red line changes is changing the withdrawal from with prejudice to without prejudice. Meaning, we're withdrawing these, but we can refile them later if we want to. And that's when the Wayfair people went to the court and were like, look, they said they were going to withdraw the claims, but now they say they're going to withdraw them without prejudice, so they can bring them again. If they can still bring them again, we still need the discovery. Because if these claims can become live in this litigation again, we need this information to deal with these claims. So the judge cannot decide on a motion to compel how Lively withdraws her own claims, right? It's up to her. She can withdraw them without prejudice, meaning she can file them again, or she can withdraw them with prejudice. That's totally up to her. The judge cannot direct her what she can do, right? She can do that with her lawyer. What the judge can do, and I think what Wayfair is sort of sideways asking them to do, is to say if they are not fully withdrawn with prejudice, then we still have a right to the information.
Yeah, so this is pretty complicated for the non-lawyer, right? Now, what's interesting is Blake Lively insists she's not even dropping the claims, which again, she is, but this Deadline article came out and people are going, what the heck are they talking about? So she claims she's not dropping these, she says she's not dropping these claims, even though they share, it's in the court system that they are. But I did want to share some other thoughts. In a letter Monday to the judge with an email exchange between lawyers on both sides from this weekend, Baldoni's attorney Kevin Fitz of Meester, Seelig, and Feen says Miss Lively's counsel recently advised us in writing that Miss Lively is withdrawing her claims. So that's what Baldoni's side is saying. Lively can't have it both ways. Fitz says, then lambasting the actress and her team. If Miss Lively wants to withdraw her frivolous emotional distress claims, the Wayfair parties are entitled to a dismissal with prejudice to ensure they will not be refiled. If Miss Lively is unwilling to stipulate to the dismissal of her claims with prejudice, the Wayfair parties will continue to defend against them, and she must produce her medical information and documents as set forth herein. Pretty much that's what this whole thing comes down to, right? Is that Baldoni's side hired the crisis PR people because they knew what her claims were privately and they wanted to prepare in case she made them public. They're doing the same here, saying we've got to put on a defense unless this is going to be entirely dismissed. Once again, it is a routine part of the litigation process being used as a press stunt, says her attorneys. We're doing what trial lawyers do, preparing our case for trial by streamlining and focusing it. They are doing what they do, desperately seeking another tired round of tabloid coverage. The Baldoni Wayfair strategy of filing retaliatory claims has exposed them to expansive new damages claims under California law, rendering certain of Miss Lively's original claims no longer necessary. Miss Lively continues to allege emotional distress as part of numerous other claims in her lawsuit, such as harassment and retaliation, and massive additional compensatory damages of all of her claims. All right, so it's confusing as hell, isn't it? Well, the judge has responded. Judge Lehman basically, and again, this is the summation by Team Justin Baldoni on the subreddit. It just was released right now. The judge basically said to Lively, you don't get to quietly walk away from your emotional distress claims unless you're serious about dropping them for good. She wanted to back out of those claims without consequences, meaning she could refile later if things looked better for her. The judge didn't go for it. Instead, he said the motion from Wayfair to force her to hand over her medical records is off the table for now, but only because she says she's dropping the claims. If she doesn't make it official, or if she tries to weasel out and keep the option to refile, the judge warned he'll block her from using any emotional distress argument at all at trial. This is pretty big stuff. You know, a lot of folks have wondered if the judge, what side he was leaning, because the judge made certain decisions that some thought were pro Blake Lively. But in this case, the judge is extremely fair and says, make it official. And if you don't, he's going to have the chance to go seek that information. And isn't that what it's all about, folks? Isn't that what it's all about, is discovery? If you have accusations you want to make through the court system, put up or shut up, right? Show us the proof. And Justin Baldoni has a chance to look at those records to say, is there any time where she talked to her mental health providers about Baldoni? Where, was she going to, imagine if she's going to a therapist at the time in which all of this would have gone down. And imagine if she never brought any of this stuff up. That would be insane. How can you say it's emotional infliction of all these damages, the bullying, the harassment, all this stuff, and there's no evidence of that, right? We live in a world where you need evidence. All right, we also live in a world where ICE agents, and by the way, ICE is a department of the government that essentially was very redundant. It's the same as Homeland Security, right? But it was created once the war on terror began and all these other things, and it's been blown out of the water. They're adding the budget for these essentially masked police officers to just disappear people off the streets. We're seeing people that have been, in the United States since they were 5 years old, brought here by their parents. Maybe they overstayed a visa, who knows? But there was one case in Massachusetts, a guy who's going to his high school, I think, volleyball practice, and he was pulled over by the cops. The cops were looking for his father, but they decided to arrest him. And folks are saying, gosh, this isn't what we signed up for. We signed up for violent, dangerous immigrants to be kicked out of the country, not everyday people that have been assimilated into American culture. Well, now we have the ICE director, Todd Lyons, visibly agitated, voice trembling as he tries to justify ICE agents wearing masks. I don't think we should live in a world where ICE agents are allowed to wear masks because, look, I could put a mask on with a fake badge and go harass people and say, well, I'm just hiding my identity because I'm ICE. I don't think this is a good thing. Have a listen.
No, not the mask, the mask. So a lot of agencies were invited to come out 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles where we ran an operation where ICE officers were doxxed. So let's just say that again. People are out there taking photos of the names, their faces, and posting them online with death threats to their family and themselves.
By the way, this is not what doxing is. Doxing is where you share someone's physical address or their phone number publicly. Private information shared publicly. I'm so sick of the idea of doxing being just saying you know who someone's identity is. If if someone wanted to heckle me at a comedy show and I said, you're Justin Wilmore and I know who you are. Oh, Dave doxed the employee. Oh, I'm sorry. I said your name so you can be held accountable for what you've done.
So I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks, but I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line and their family on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is. They are wearing those masks because we ran an operation with the Secret Service where we arrested someone that was going online, taking their photos, posting their families, their kids' Instagram, their kids' Facebooks, and targeting them. So let me ask, is that the issue here, that we're just upset about the masks? Or is anyone upset with the fact that ICE officers' families were labeled terrorist?
It's about the identification.
And by the way, if somebody is sharing photos of ICE agents' kids, deal with that person. Obviously, there'll be instances where people go too far, but that doesn't mean everyone gets to wear masks. How come it's now illegal to wear a mask if you're attending a protest, but it's actually encouraged to wear a mask if you work for the government and you're arresting people off the streets? We just want accountability.
Some of these entities don't have label IDs.
All right, so intentionally targeting heads of households in an effort to financially.
All right, so anyway, you hear people yelling, and then, of course, spinelessly doesn't take any comments. Listen, I completely disagree with the masks. If you are so worried about being able to do your job because of the sort of democratic response from your constituents, that being American citizens deciding we want the whole world to know who the F you are. We want the whole world to know. That's not sharing your private information. So if someone shares their private information, deal with that person. But that doesn't mean everyone gets to wear a ski mask and run around terrorizing communities. I don't buy it, not one bit. I'd love to know what you guys think. Leave a comment on our social media. DNeals on TikTok, DNEALZ. I'm also on Instagram at DNeals, and then the podcast, The Rush Hour with Dave Neal, is also the link for the podcast Instagram. You can join the Facebook community, Dave Neal's community, for free on Facebook, and then the private Patreon community, if you want to donate to the channel, is patreon.com/Dave Neal. That's it for me. We'll be back in the morning with more updates on all these stories. We'll see you then. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.